Next deformer is a spline rail deformer. We use 2D spline and a 3D object to create a 3D deformation by using this spline rail deformer. I just create one cube over here with a size of y around 50 centimeter and the segment of xyz around 20. I apply the spline rail deformer on this cube. I just drag this spline rail deformer on the cube, and here I add this spline what I created by using a different view inside this spline rail left option. This spline left option, I just drag this spline from here to here and you can see it's deformed that cube according to the spline modifier or spline option. Anytime you can go back to spline, you hide this spline rail and you modify this spline like this and just on this spline rail, and you can see the difference inside this object. For a better result, you can add more spline, for a spline for a right side, a spline for a top, and a spline for a bottom, and you get better result from this spine rail deformer. Next one is spline wrap deformer. For that we have to create one spline and one 3D object, and then after we can deform that 3D object on a spline. For the reason, I just create a torus. I change the orientation of that torus on a Z plus. I can change the segment of the torus for better result, and then after I create a spline like n side, and I change the radius of that n side to see it very clearly. That's enough for me. Then I apply this spline wrap deformer on torus, and inside this spline option I drag this n side and drop it on this spline box. You can see here, you can see a very different looking 3D object over there, but you can change the axis of this option to get a better result like this. I can change the strength of it and offset of this object from and to. Anytime you can go back to spline and you can change the radius of the spline and segments of the spline or diameter or radius of the pipe. I go back to spline wrap option and change the offset of it like this, or from and to option to cover entire spline strength. These options are available with the spine wrap option. Next one is camera deformer. For that I create a basic primitive like a sphere, and then after I apply a camera deformer on that sphere. So I drag this camera deformer from here to on that sphere name. You can see the camera grid over here. We can deform this grid, and according to that grid my sphere get deformed or my 3D object get deformed. So I just click on this point option over here. I select this some points by using this selection option, live selection option. I select some point like this and then use these arrows to modify that like this. Now whenever you can see there's some deformation on that sphere, but when I change the angle of my view or angle of my camera, you can see more deformation on that object. So whenever any object come on that grid or particularly deformed part of that grid, it is get deformed. So it's a very unique or different kind of deformer available inside Cinema 4D. You can deform lots of objects. You can create very nice effect by using this unique deformer called camera deformer. Next deformer is collision deformer. For that I first create a plane. I increase the segment of it around 50-50 on the width and height segments. Then after I create sphere, then I apply this collision deformer on this plane. I just drag this collision and drop it on the plane. Inside collision option, for the collider object, you have to drag this sphere as my collider object, and I just simply drag and drop inside this collider option box. You can see instantly start reacting with just that plane. For better result or for different result, I can change the solver option. Like inside, you can see it's create some bulgy effect over here, or inside stretch. For that I on this shading option, lines option, outside volume, or intersect like this. I click on this inside option. I select this sphere and I move it. You can see the plane is deforming with that sphere. For a better option or for better result, I can modify this advanced properties. First thing, I can go with the stretch. I can change the stretch of it. You can see it's changing its shape. Or relax option for some smoothness. You can change the stiffness option like this, or structure option like this for deformation of that polygons, and flexibility for better result. This size and steps actually add some smoothness on deformation like this. I can animate this sphere like this to create some effect. It's something like something going behind the curtain or something like that. That kind of effect you create by using this collision option. It's very nice effect to deform any plane or creating a cloth effect. Next deformer is displacer deformer. I first create a cube over here with some extra segment around 50 in all axis. You can see it's a little bit dense object over here. I can add a displacer option over here and drag the displacer from here to cube. Inside the displacer option, you can see there's an option called shading. We can apply any black and white object or texture, animated texture, or any colorful texture with some color variation to create a deformation or displacement of this object. So I can go over here inside the shader. They provide lots and lots of options over there, but I go with the noise first. I click on this noise option and you can see this object deform like that noise pattern. I can double click on this noise pattern to modify this noise. I double click it. You can see it's a black and white effect. You can change the contrast and other effects like colors or cycles or different things. You can see like this. If you want to animate that, I just change the animation speed. Before that, I can check of this shader. I right click on it and say animate, so I can see this animating over here. Then after I can play this play option to see the animation on my object. This way you can modify or deform any surface by using this displacer option. It's very nice one to create a water kind of shape or wavy shape. I go back to displacer. I can add another shader on it. I can go with the gradient one. Here you can see the black and white effect. Okay, I double click on it. Inside this gradient option, I can add more stops. Just double click on it and choose another color. I will go with the black and white only. So add white over here. You can see it's displacing that cube. I double click on it to change it on black like this. This you can modify the object by using a gradient. I jump back to displacer again. I can go with another object. They already provide some preset over here like a brick shader. I go with a wooden plank one. You can see the effect of wooden plank or image of wooden plank. I can change the scale of it like this. You can see deformations. I can change the brick height and brick width like this. I can change the shift or reset some round columns. This you can modify the effect. I can go with the color option. I change the color like in another stuff. I can add another color for small changes on this displacer option. Go back to displacer, and this way you can modify the displacer by using different shader and create a great effect by using this displacer option. You can save your own preset for future use. You can add some effects like a backlight, distorter, fall off, lumas. These are very nice effect to modify your object. Like I click on this fire and you can see it's look like a fire. I can click over here on surface. I can go with a rust, so you can see the small rusty effect over there, or you can go with a marble type of thing, but you have to change the lots of parameter of this marble to get better displacement like this.